Hello, good morning everyone. Welcome to TSAT live program, special program on presentation skills. My name is Rajneesh, Assistant Professor of English, Government Degree College, Gajwal, and today we have my fellow presenter, Mr. DSSR Krishna.
Hello.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Krishna.
Good morning.
Krishna is Assistant Professor of English, Government Degree College, Hayatnagar. And to start today's program, all of us, most of us, we are asked to carry out presentations at various stages of our university life and career. Especially as students of a degree, graduation or some other course, you are asked to present your skills, present something on your subject at various levels. And I am sure some of you have the experience of presenting your project work under Jigyasa, haven't you? And that is all presentation skills are, nothing new. And presentation skills may be a part of a selection process for an interview, for a job interview. And sometimes the topic is given in advance, and sometimes very short time is given for presentation on the day of presentation itself. Whatever the situation is, the key ingredients, the key qualities of a good presentation are organization and confidence. If you have these two skills, organization and confidence, you can definitely do well in a presentation. Presentation skills are like any other skill, it can be mastered through practice. Working on these skills, even a shy and quiet person can master these skills and present confidently. And we all know that in today's market-driven society, without presentation skills, it is very difficult to get a job. If you are equipped with these presentation skills and communication skills, the chances of your getting a job is brighter. And we sometimes we see people who are experts, who are authorities on their subject, their field. They are highly talented, but they lack the presentation skills. For example, we have seen so many prime ministers before our Narendra Modi ji. Some of the prime ministers are so exceptionally talented, so exceptionally skillful in their respective fields, but they fail to communicate. If their knowledge is supported, if with these presentation skills, and if they are articulate in presenting their knowledge and expertise, they would have got more accolades and appreciation. So therefore, first of all, we shall see what presentation skills are. Shall we look at what presentation skills are, Mr. Krishna?
Surely, Mr. Rajneesh. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Delighted to share this session along with you. And to start with, the Collins English Dictionary, it defines the presentation skills as the set of techniques and skills required to successfully present oral information to others. This is what the Collins English Dictionary says. And to elaborate the point, this particular point, we can say that this is a set of abilities that enable an individual to interact with the audience, to transmit messages with clarity, to engage the audience in the presentation, to interpret and understand the mindsets of the listeners. So, in a conventional classroom environment where the lecture method is followed, all these qualities are not fulfilled. Interacting with the audience is not possible. Transmitting the messages with clarity is not possible. It's only one-sided, whereas a presentation is two-sided, a dialogue kind of a thing where both the presenter and the audience interact with each other, share their ideas, understand each other's sensibilities, and engage the audience completely in the presentation. So to continue with, we have a few types of presentations. the first type of presentation is the informative presentation. This type of presentation is to present research. Generally is used to present research, where you provide a lot of information and data into the presentation. For example, you are studying about the socio-economic status of the Muslims in Telangana state. You need to collect data from the population census of 2011, and you also need to approach the Sachar committee report, which is the central government nominated committee, and the Sudhir committee report, which has already been given by the Sudhir committee constituted by the Telangana government. This data will clearly give us the insight into the socio-economic status of the Muslims in Telangana. This is considered to be an example for informative presentation. Demonstrative presentation is more of an experiment kind of a thing to show how to do something. Doing and showing, doing and proving the things is the quality of this type of presentation. Generally, this type of presentation is used in the field of physical sciences and life sciences, and also they are particularly used in the fields of marketing and business, where products are sold in the market. The third type of presentation is the persuasive presentation, where this approach is to change the way one thinks about a subject or issue. This is generally we generally observe this particular presentation, this type of presentation in advertisements, in the advertisements of the products, where we are persuaded to change our option from one particular brand to the other brand. Generally, this is adopted by the marketing personalities, where you find that they try to persuade us in a way to show us that our product is better than the other product. And then the fourth type of presentation is the inspirational presentation, where under this type of presentation, participants are encouraged to go after their goals. They are encouraged to approach the positive thinking methods rather than the negative thinking methods, and they are always motivated to go ahead chasing their dreams and achieving their goals. So, in a way, as such to say, a good presentation, an apt presentation is a combination of all these four aspects. For example, the CEO of the former CEO of Apple Incorporation, Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, his presentation goes in this way, where whenever a new product is introduced in Apple Incorporation, he shows how to use the product, what is the use of the product, what are the uses of the product, and then he finally influences you by demonstrating the product and letting you have a feel of the product. So this is an example to show that Steve Jobs follows, all the four types of presentations are incorporated in his presentation. So this being the types of presentation, I think it's time now for us to go ahead with what are the key areas, key aspects of making a good presentation. What do you think are the key aspects of making a good presentation, Mr. Rajneesh?
Yes, my dear friend. Whenever we are asked to give a presentation, make a presentation, we have to keep in mind four crucial aspects in mind, key aspects we can call them. The first one is, who is the audience? Who is the audience is the first one. What are you going to talk about? How much time is given? And what aids can be used to support your argument? The first one is, who is the audience? If you know the audience in advance prior to the presentation, their age group, the purpose of the presentation, you can adapt your content to suit their purpose of visiting the presentation. If you know how much knowledge they have about the topic you are going to present, you can devise and plan your presentation accordingly. And the next point is, what are you going to talk about? because you should have a clear idea about what you are going to talk about. If you have a choice of selecting a topic for yourself, you are happy, and then you can choose a topic which you are very confident of doing that, and well acquainted with the topic, and you can talk confidently when you have a mastery over the topic. Sometimes a topic is a specific topic is given. In such cases, there is no other way except reading and making research and preparing notes. Basing on those notes, you have to make your presentation. It is always better to have too much information to work with, so that you can cut down short in case you are running out of time. The third point is how much time is given. It is time is a crucial aspect. For example, a 10-minute talk or a 15-minute talk or 20-minute talk, the content of these talks or presentations is determined by the duration of the presentation. Therefore, keep in mind of the duration of the time, duration of the presentation, and make sure that you don't miss out any key aspect in presenting. The last one is, what are the aids? What are the aids available, or what aids can be used? Aids, you have plenty of aids, teaching aids, presentation aids available in the market, on the Google. So much free stuff is available, and you can use PPTs, images, visuals, videos, music. Mind you, my dear friends, when you make use of any visual or image, you check whether it is copyright protected. If it is copyright protected, you have to seek the permission of the copyright owner. Be mindful of the fact. If you keep all these four aspects in mind, you are going to give a wonderful presentation, my dear friends. Now, as the key aspects we have already discussed, what is the preparation? How to prepare for the presentation? My friend will talk about it.
Now, as stated by you in the key aspects, keeping in consideration as to who the audience is and what do you want to talk about, we need to prepare a few things in advance. The first and foremost thing that is very important in making a very good presentation, in making an effective presentation, is to prepare notes. You need to be very clear with what points are you going to cover in the presentation, and that notes have to be jotted down. And the next step is to practice and practice out loud. The essence is, any skill can be learnt only through practice. Only through practical implementation we can master that skill. In the same way, presentation also needs to be practiced a lot, as many times as possible, till you get very confident of your presentation. And do remember that presentations cannot be made in silence. Practice it out loud in an environment where you have your friends or your family or your relatives along with you, so that they can tell you whatever is going wrong with you, or where you have to change your modulation, and your practice becomes more effective while you're presenting while you're doing your presentation. Then the next point that you have to remember is that to transform nervous energy into enthusiasm. I always find, sometimes I find many of my students, just before 5 minutes of the starting of the examination, while taking the examination, they are very busy looking into their notebooks, and they continue to read and read and read. I always tell them, don't do this, because it increases your nervousness, and there is always a possibility of forgetting whatever you have prepared. So it is always necessary that you transform your nervous energy into enthusiasm. Do something that you love most. For example, you love listening to music. Before going for presentation, listen to good music and then go for a presentation, so that the added enthusiasm will always be helpful to you to make an effective presentation. The next thing is attend and watch other presentations. This is a very important aspect, mind you, friends, that attending other presentations is a mark of showing respect to your co-presenters. For example, during the Jignasa presentations, many of the presenters who have come there from different colleges were busy in their own preparation when their turn would come and when they have to present. But actually they have lost that sense that what are the people who are presenting doing, so that they can have a pulse of what the audience is like, whether the audience are entertaining and whether the audience want some kind of entertainment. All these points have to be observed, and you have to attend, watch other presentations that will give you the experience of performing better. The next point is arriving early. Arrive early for the presentation. Arrive early so that you get adjusted to your surroundings, adjusted to the surroundings, and the people around you, the audience, get acquainted with the audience. All these points are very much essential before you make your presentation. To continue with a few more items of preparation, I request you to take over.
Yes, Mr. Krishna. Having said that, if you arrive early at the presentation, venue of the presentation, you can get accustomed, you can get adapted to the environment, and you feel at ease. And there are some other points to remember. When you enter the hall, meeting hall, or the presentation hall, it's better to meet and greet people. Meet and greet people. This way, it gives an opportunity to the audience or to the attendees to interact with you, and they feel at home. When a turn of interaction comes, they feel at home, and they come forward to ask questions. And the next one is a smile. Smiling is a gift only human beings are endowed with. It's a gift, in fact. No other animal or no other creature on earth can smile. So smile, smile, and smile. It does not cost anything. Especially while presenting, do not pull a sorry face. Do not show a grave face. Always a smile. It releases endorphins and gives you a sense of confidence. It not only gives you confidence to yourself, but it shows your confidence to others as well. And the next point is take deep breaths. Anxiety, in anxiety, usually our muscles get constricted, we become tightened, yes. Our muscles get tightened, and sometimes we gasp for breath. In such a situation, we take deep breaths. These deep breaths help us in supplying more oxygen to the mind, to the brain, and in turn the brain releases our muscles, and we feel confident and we feel at ease. Next, have a glass of water. Dry throat is the result of anxiety and curiosity. To avoid this, definitely you never forget to have a glass of water before the presentation begins. And drink water a lot, but mind you, my dear friends, before the presentation, do not forget hitting the washroom. You empty your bowels, you relieve yourself so that you do not be uncomfortable while the presentation is going on. And when it comes to the dressing should be very formal, or at least it should be reasonably formal, semi-formal. It should not be flashy or clumsy or fancy dresses. You cannot wear them, because people expect you to be professional. Generally, professionals use formal dresses. Therefore, in order to give an impression that they are listening to a professional, you dress formally and also comfortably. You do not risk yourself wearing tight fitted clothes. And the other point is Guy Kawasaki's 10-20-30 rule. 10-20-30 rule. That is, when using technology, especially preparing PPTs, PowerPoint presentations, you keep in mind that if the presentation is of 20-minute duration, the number of slides should not be more than 10, and the font size should not be less than 30, and at the same time, mind you, my dear friends, you should not stuff the slide with too many pictures, too many lines, and too many graphics, which might distract the attention of the audience. And last but not the least, check your material, check your presentation material. Sometimes what happens is you take your pen drive, you save your soft copy on a pen drive, and when you give it to the crew there at the presentation venue, it might not open, and you get nervous and you're lost, you're very much confused. That is why make sure that your presentation is in a regular format. You should not use fancy fonts and glittering fonts, too much material, and at the same time you keep the soft copy on Google Drive or some Gmail, so that if you do not find the file is not opened on your pen drive, you can retrieve it from the Google Drive. This is how the preparation should be there before a presentation. And the process of presentation can be compared to a flying in an aeroplane. If this is compared to the process of a presentation is compared to aeroplane, taking off and landing, taking off, flying in the air, that is the flight time, and landing. All these three things are important. Now that we are prepared, equipped ourselves very well with the stuff, with the material, how to take off, my dear friend Mr. Krishna, how to take off?
Adding a point to what you said in the preparation part itself, checking your presentation material, you must make sure that your software is compatible to all the versions of Microsoft.
Yes, thank you. You're right. You're right.
I think that is a point that we need to make.
True.
Because sometimes what happens is, if we make it in the modern version of 2010 or 13,
True.
it may not open in the older systems or older versions of so True. That also has to be kept in mind. And equally compatible versions have to be adopted, where it can open on any version. Coming to takeoff, we are ready to take off. I request all the passengers to fasten their seat belts and start their presentation. The first and the foremost thing, what if I say in my presentation that today's topic is very boring? I'll try to wind it up as early as possible. How do you feel about it? Naturally, you would get bored. You would feel this person is already saying that the topic is very boring. How can it be interesting? Then the other way is, today I'm not in a good mood. Please excuse me. Now, your being in a good mood or not in a good mood is not at all essential. Avoid saying this kind of things. And it is something, it gives a negative start. It is called something like a negative or a false start. You should never start with a negative start. Always start positively and start with an attention grabber. Attention grabbers are those things which you need to be, being normal is always boring. See, always the conventional kind of method or being the same old way is always boring. For example, you are about to start a lesson and you write on the board that this is the lesson I'm going to start. This is absolutely a no-no in a presentation. Whenever you have to start a presentation, you should grab the attention of the audience through, for example, you can use an appropriate joke. An appropriate joke can be a very good thing. For example, you can see the slide there. It's self-explanatory. I need not explain the slide. You can narrate a story, a small story of David and Goliath. You see there David and Goliath. The story of David and Goliath is very famous. And you also can go for something like, an inspirational story, an interesting personality, an interesting picture, For example, Nick Vujicic.
Nick Vujicic.
Nick Vujicic, the man with no limbs who teaches people how to get up. So this is quite inspirational, where a man, and this is something like, a shock statement. Do you know that people in France can marry corpses? People in France can marry dead bodies. This is quite shocking. So you can always start with this kind of a thing. For example, you also can say, you can always ask an arousing question. For example, why does a funeral start with fun? F-U-N, fun. Quite ridiculous that funeral starts with fun. Or you can use an interesting quote like, the world is what is. Men who are nothing, men who allow themselves to become nothing, have no place in it. This is the quote of V.S. Naipaul. Naipaul, unfortunately, he passed away on Saturday, and this was the news in the morning today. A Nobel laureate. His parents were Indians. They are Indians. And this shows that it is very clear that you can start it in a novel way, in a creative way, and in an interactive way. For example, you can use a couplet also. A couplet is a rhyming kind of a thing, a song kind of a thing. For example, you can say, Har roz girkar bhi mukammal khade hai. Har roz girkar bhi mukammal khade hai. Ae zindagi dekh, mere hosle tujhse bhi bade hai. So it always creates an interest among the audience as to what is the person about to go about in his presentation. This always creates interest. So can you get along with a few other tips,
yes,
my dear friend?
Definitely. To continue taking off, we have not taken off yet. To begin the presentation, you should have the roadmap in your hand first. Roadmap. By roadmap, you mean that what you are going to do, what you are going to deal with. Give a brief note about the presentation, how much time is devoted for introduction, how much time is devoted for the main body of the presentation, how much time is given for interaction, and all these things should be informed to the audience in advance. And the structure of the presentation it should be effective, just like a well-formed, well-organized paragraph. It should have a beginning, the middle, and the end. And the points should be logical, they should be coherent, the points should be linked to one another, and as a whole they should make an impression, a single impression or emotion. And the points should be well organized, as we have already discussed. And the presentation, there is a lot of scope for creativity. Creativity is very important and key element in preparing the presentation of the slides. Please do not use the one-note stories, one-note expressions, one-note things. Just like when generally in regular classes, conventional classes, when teachers teach active voice and passive voice, they take the examples of Rama killed Ravana, Ravana was killed by Rama. Please do not take such examples, age-old and worn-out expressions. Instead of doing that, creative examples should be drawn in, and think out of the box for citing good examples to support your presentation. And your presentation will be more effective, more authentic if it is supported and strengthened with facts, graphs, stories. These things can help you make it so effective. Therefore, keep all these things when you take off, you start your presentation. And there are some more important points you might feel, you might sense at the time of presentation yourself in the hall. Some unexpected, unforeseen things might happen, and you can make use of those incidents. You can draw in those incidents into your presentation. And the flight, it's time for flight. Once we have taken off, it's time for flight, Mr. Krishna.
Right, all set, zoom into the clouds. The first thing, the thing that we need to make a point is that you need to follow the 5 P's. By 5 P's, what I mean to say is, number 1, it is pace. The pace of your presentation should be in a synchronized way, not too fast, not too slow. It should be moderate, and your pitch is also very much important. For example, you should not speak in a very loud voice nor in a very low voice. Vary your pitch accordingly, according to the emotions, according to the things that you are speaking of. Where there is a need for high pitch, use the high pitch. Where there is a need for low pitch, use the low pitch. The tone, the falling tone, the rising tone, all these things matter a lot in your voice. The voice is very much essential whenever you're using, you're making a presentation. The third thing is the power. The power indicates, the confidence that you present, that you make a presentation. With what kind of confidence, with what kind of energy that you are making a presentation with is very, very important. The next thing is projection. Projection of ideas, projection of technology, how to pronounce words, and what is the effective method of communicating. For example, pronunciation matters a lot. For example, if you go to an Indian audience and speak in an Australian accent, they will not be able to understand. So making a, the pronunciation should also be effective, should also be understandable to all the people. Then the next thing, the most important point, and the last but not the least, is the pause. I hope you understand what is pause. Immediately after saying that, the last but not the least, I waited for a second. Waiting for breath, or to avoid the the confusion, it is always better to pause for a minute, to pause for a moment and then go ahead with your presentation. For example, wrong pause may also lead to the change of meaning. For example, in this sentence where you find that a woman, without her, man is incomplete. What do you understand by the second sentence? I'm reading the second sentence first because I don't want to deal with the first sentence first, and because it says that woman is incomplete, but the second sentence says a woman, without her, man is incomplete. So if you don't have a pause after without her, but after man, then the woman becomes incomplete. For example, a woman without her man is incomplete. What does this sentence show? It shows that the woman is incomplete. And the second sentence shows that the man is incomplete. So the correct pause is necessary to understand the sentence correctly. So to continue with the flight.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Krishna. I would like to add a point to the thing that is called pace.
Oh.
When it comes to pace, generally the study shows that it is better to have not more than 20 words a minute.
Oh,
20 words a minute is a reasonable pace. If you continue your presentation 20 words a minute, it is very reasonable. And the other things, continuing, you have to arrest the concentration, the attention of the audience attendees by actively engaging them. You have to we have to actively engage the audience by asking questions. If you arrive early or even during the presentation, you can ask questions so that you can learn their responses and you can weave their responses into your presentation as well. Generally, people like to be heard. They like to be heard, their voices to be heard. So you ask questions, and thus this way you can engage them. And be human. By saying be human, some of the attendees, some of the participants in the presentation may ask you a question which might sound silly to you, nonsensical to you, but it may be of greater importance to the person who asked the question. So in such situation, do not humiliate, do not offend the person who actually asked the question, and be entertaining. Inject humor into your presentation, bring humor, crack some jokes and tell them some funny incidents. But mind you, my dear friends, you cannot entertain, you cannot make funny things or crack jokes throughout the presentation. If you do that, you end up being a stand-up comedian, and that is not the purpose of the presentation. So it should be judicious. The jokes, the humor should be judicious. And when it comes to body language, using gestures and showing emotions and power stance, all these things come under body language. Body language also plays an important role, as some studies show that 70% of the communication happens through body language rather than the words. So therefore, be careful about the body language. Some people tend to keep their hands in their pockets, and some people tend to lock their hands like this. This not only restricts the movement of their body, but it also restricts their flow of expression. So mind your body language and be honest. Power stance is eye contact, maintaining the eye contact with each one of the audiences is very important. They can trust you. If you have eye contact, they can trust you. And mind you, do not look at a particular person, or do not concentrate, do not gaze at a particular audience, particular section of audience while presentation. And last thing is the most important, crucial aspect is that be honest. It's for sure that the audience know that you are not omniscient. It's not that they don't think that, no one ever thinks that you know everything on this earth. It's not possible. And if at all someone asks you a question which you cannot answer, which you do not have an answer with you, admit that you do not have the answer for that, and if you are given time, you can respond in some short time. Be modest and be honest while admitting your mistakes or your ignorance. But anyway, we are all learners. We are all learners all the time. And another point is that signposting. Signposting is that every 5 minutes or 10 minutes, we better signpost. That is, make a mention of the important points like bullets, whatever has been discussed so far. So for example, we have discussed how to prepare for a presentation, how to start the presentation, and now we are dealing with how to continue the presentation. And my friend Krishna will tell us about how to end or sum up the presentation.
Yes. Now it's time for landing. When you're landing, remember to finish strong. To finish strong, I mean to say that it should be a very confident, on a very confident note. You should finish it in a one-liner or a statement or a quotation or a story, and your finish should be on time. It should never deviate the time. Go for a recap. Always recap helps you in telling us what we have dealt with, and recap is essential in a presentation. Go for a feedback. A feedback is also very essential. Feedback is a word that has, is the smallest word with the letters A, B, C, D, E, F. A, B, C, D, E, F. With these letters, we can form a small word that is feedback, and feedback is very, very essential for presentation. Go for questions. Ask the audience to raise questions, to raise their doubts, to raise objections on whatever point the presentation is about. Make a mention of the references that you have made. You might have taken the material from any other source, and it is a very good thing that you always acknowledge the source from where you have taken the material, source material. For example, the source material for this presentation is taken from 20 ways to improve your presentation skills by Larry Kim. Larry Kim has presented this 20 ways to improve your presentation skills. And Himesh Madhan, a motivational and communication skills trainer, has also written an article, and it is from these people that a few of the inputs have been taken for this presentation. And don't forget to thank the audience after the presentation. Now, for a recap,
Yes.
Mr. Rajneesh.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Krishna. Now we have almost come to the end of the session. Any questions from the students are welcome, and we are at your disposal. And before we conclude the presentation, we have a bird's eye view of whatever we have discussed so far. This, if possible, you make a slide in which there is a diagram or a chart or a flow chart, how the presentation went on. The summary of the presentation may be given in the form of a chart or a diagram, so that it gives a lasting impression. It makes a lasting and indelible impression on the minds of the readers, minds of the attendees and listeners. This is what we have discussed so far. First, we set a clear objective. What is the objective of the presentation? And we structure according to the objective, the purpose of the presentation, and put together your notes, whatever the research you have put in preparing, that is putting together, and create visuals, that is preparing PPTs or some videos or music, adding music, these things, create visuals, and opening attention grabber, that is, as my friend Krishna said, a joke or a shocking incident or interesting quotation or a couplet or a rhyme, whatever, some interesting fact. You can start your presentation with an attention grabber and deliver the body of the presentation. After the delivery of the presentation, after the goods are delivered, you summarize and conclude, summarization and conclusion, and the audience, the attendees are given time for questions and objections, suggestions. And my dear friends, always respond to the questions of the attendees or the audience, and take suggestions. Suggestions should be welcome, because no one is perfect. Everyone can perfect himself only through accepting and receiving suggestion from our friends, and suggest next steps. What is the next step? What can be done in this area of subject after whatever has been discussed in this presentation, and end with an energetic statement. Never end with a passive or pessimistic statement. Always keep in mind that you end the presentation with a positive note and with a smiling face, so that the listeners and audiences feel like listening to you more and more.
Okay,
Yes,
now
Krishna.
that we have come to the conclusion, I would like to end this session with a quote of Lily Walters, where he says, "The success of your presentation would be judged not by the knowledge you send, but by what the listener receives." So this is what is very, very important to understand, that whatever information you send is not important, but what the audience receives is the most important thing. With this, we come to the end of this session, and
any questions from the students?
Questions are
we
welcome.
Expect some questions. Okay, since we have a little time left with us, you please listen to great speakers. Like so many videos are available on YouTube, like for example Jaggi Vasudev and Gaur Gopal Das, and so many eloquent speakers.
Yes.
Presenters are there. You try to watch those videos and keep them on your phone, so that you can enhance your presentation skills, drawing inspiration from such videos, such eloquent speakers. and thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, and happy learning, my dear students. Happy learning, and success is dependent on effort. There is no good luck without hard work. Without hard work is the key to success. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you for
All the best.
listening.